Oregon sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the dusty arena of the Larson Canine Training Center. A crowd of locals and buyers buzzed with anticipation, their murmurs rising like heat waves off the packed dirt. James Larson stood in the center, his silver hair tied back, his weathered face stern under a worn cowboy hat. At 60, he carried the weight of a lifetime. 2 tours in Vietnam, a failing training center, and a past he'd buried deep. Beside him, a massive black German shepherd paced, its yellow eyes wild, a white slash across its chest like a battle scar. Storm, they called him, a dog so untamed he'd sent 3 handlers to the ER last year. "Ladies and gentlemen," James bellowed, his voice rough as gravel, "this here's Storm, a military war dog, retired but unbroken. He's a legend, but he's no pet. 5 minutes under your command and he's yours. No charge. Step up if you dare, but don't say I didn't warn you. This dog's a tornado in fur." The crowd shifted, nervous laughter rippling. Storm's growl echoed low and menacing, his body coiled like a spring. No one moved. They'd heard the stories, bitten arms, shattered careers. Then a sharp scuff of boots broke the silence. A young woman stepped forward, her faded military fatigues dusty, her brown hair pulled tight under a red bandana. Claire Bennett, 25, moved with a soldier's precision, her jawline marked by a pink scar. The crowd hushed, eyes darting between her and the beast. "Miss, this ain't a game," James warned, his tone sharp but curious. "Storm don't take to strangers." Claire's gaze locked on the dog, unflinching. "He's not a stranger to me, Mr. Larson." Her voice carried, clear and steady, cutting through the arena. "That's Sergeant Storm, military working dog, K435, my partner." A gasp rippled through the onlookers. Storm's ears flicked forward, his growl fading, his body still but alert, as if recognizing her. James froze, his hand tightening on the leash. The name Bennett hit him like a bullet, stirring a memory he'd spent 23 years suppressing. He studied her, the slope of her cheekbones, the defiance in her stance. It couldn't be. "Your name?" he demanded, his voice low, almost a growl itself. "Sergeant Claire Bennett, 75th Ranger Regiment, retired," she said, her eyes never leaving Storm. "And you knew exactly who he was when you bought him from Fort Bragg." She paused, her words heavy with accusation. "Just like you knew who I was when my mom wrote to you 23 years ago." The crowd buzzed, whispers erupting. James's face paled, his hand dropping the leash. Storm sat instantly at Claire's soft command. "Stay." His eyes fixed on her, calm for the first time all day. The arena felt electric, like the air before a storm. Robert Larson, James's younger brother, pushed through the crowd, his tailored suit out of place among the denim and dust. At 55, his ambition was sharper than his smile. "This is a stunt," Robert snapped, his voice slick with authority. "We're here to auction a dog, not air family drama." "Miss, step back." Claire ignored him, kneeling beside Storm, her hand outstretched. The dog nuzzled her palm, a low whine escaping his throat. "Kia," she whispered, a word from her mother's old stories, meaning wait. Storm obeyed, his loyalty undeniable. The crowd watched, stunned, as the untamed beast became her shadow. James's voice cracked. "That's impossible." "This dog came from Fort Bragg, my unit," Claire cut in, standing. "You saw me on that Wounded Warriors segment, didn't you? That's why you bought him." "To draw me here." Her eyes burned into his, accusation and pain intertwined. "You're my father, James Larson, and you walked away from me before I was born." The arena fell silent, the weight of her words crushing. Robert's face twisted, his eyes darting to James, sensing opportunity. James staggered, memories flooding. Sarah's letters, her green eyes, the choice he made for duty over love. "Clear the arena," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Everyone out, now!" The crowd hesitated, then shuffled out, murmuring. Robert lingered, his smile cold. "This isn't over, James. The council won't like this." He strode off, leaving father and daughter alone with Storm. Claire's hand rested on the dog's head, her voice trembling but firm. "You've got 3 minutes to explain why you abandoned us," she said. "I'm not here for you. I'm here for Storm. My partner. He saved my life in Kandahar, and I'm not leaving without him." James's shoulders sagged, his hat casting a shadow over his eyes. "I didn't know how to find you," he said, voice raw. "When I saw you on TV with him, I thought Storm might bring you here. You thought wrong," Claire snapped, tears brimming. "You don't get to play hero now." Storm whined, pressing against her, sensing her pain. James opened his mouth, but a glint near the arena fence caught Claire's eye. A small, blinking device, half buried in the dirt. A tracker, military grade. Her pulse spiked. Someone was watching. "What's that?" she demanded, pointing. James frowned, kneeling to inspect it. "This isn't ours." His voice hardened. "Someone's spying on the center." Claire's eyes narrowed, Storm's growl returning, low and dangerous. The tracker, her sudden arrival, James's shock. It wasn't coincidence. Someone wanted her here and not for a reunion. Who was behind it, and what did they want with Storm? The answers, Claire knew, would unravel everything. The Oregon dusk settled over the Larson Canine Training Center, the arena now empty, its dust still swirling from the crowd's departure. Claire Bennett stood by the kennels, her hand resting on Storm's sleek black fur, his yellow eyes scanning the shadows. The German Shepherd's warmth anchored her, a tether to the chaos of Kandahar, where he'd dragged her to safety during an ambush. At 25, her brown hair was still tied tight under a red bandana, her faded fatigues a reminder of the life she'd left behind. The tracker she'd found, an insidious blinking device, sat heavy in her pocket, a silent warning. James Larson, her father, leaned against a fence post, his silver hair loose, his cowboy hat clutched in his hands. The weight of Claire's accusation, "You abandoned us," hung between them like a storm cloud. "You can't just show up and claim him," James said, his voice rough but unsteady, avoiding her gaze. "Storm's center property bought legal. He's dangerous, Claire. You saw the records. 3 handlers hurt." Claire's jaw tightened, her scar tingling with old pain. "He's only dangerous to people who don't know him, like you." She knelt, stroking Storm's white chest patch, his whine soft but fierce. "We served together, saved each other. You think I'd let you auction him off like some prize?" James flinched, his hands tightening on the hat. "I didn't know it was you on that TV segment, not at first. Wounded warriors, talking about your dog. I saw Storm's tag number, made calls. Thought I was saving him." "Saving him?" Claire's laugh was sharp, cutting. "You bought him to lure me here, didn't you? To ease your guilt for walking out on Mom and me." James's face hardened, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of shame. "You don't know the whole story, girl. Your mom, Sarah. She made choices, too. I sent money every month until she died," Claire snapped, standing, her voice cracking. "Cancer took her 3 years ago, and you didn't even show up. Don't pretend you cared." Storm growled softly, sensing her anger, his ears twitching toward the kennel gate. Claire followed his gaze, spotting a figure in the twilight. Robert Larson, James's brother, his suit pristine despite the dust. His slick smile made her skin crawl. "Trouble in paradise?" Robert called, strolling closer. "James, you didn't tell me we had a family reunion planned." "Stay out of this, Robert," James growled, stepping forward. "This is between me and her." Robert's eyes flicked to Claire, calculating. Her? Oh, you mean the long-lost daughter. Quite the bombshell, Claire Bennett. But this center's got bigger problems than your daddy issues. He gestured at Storm. That dog's a liability, and this place is bleeding cash. We need buyers, not drama. Claire's hand tightened on Storm's collar. Then why is someone planting trackers? Found one by the arena. Military grade. You know anything about that, Robert? Robert's smile faltered, but he recovered fast. Trackers. Sounds like paranoia, sweetheart. Maybe you brought trouble with you. He turned to James. Council's meeting tomorrow. Investors are circling. Get her out of here before she tanks what's left of this place. James's jaw clenched, but he said nothing, his silence fueling Claire's rage. Storm's growl deepened, his body tensing as Robert stepped closer. Easy, mutt, Robert sneered, backing off. James, handle this or I will. He strode away, his phone already at his ear, voice low and urgent. Claire rounded on James. What's he talking about? Investors? Selling the center? James sighed, rubbing his neck. Robert's been pushing to sell the land to developers. Casino, resort, big money. Says it'll save the center, but it'll gut what we stand for. Training dogs for service, not profit. I've been fighting him, but we're drowning in debt. Claire's eyes narrowed, the tracker burning in her pocket. And you think that's unrelated to this? She held up the device, its red light pulsing. Someone's watching us, James. Maybe Robert's not just selling land. James took the tracker, his face darkening. This ain't right. We've had break-ins, missing equipment. But I thought it was locals, not... He trailed off, doubt creeping in. You sure you didn't bring this? Your military past? Enemies? Claire's laugh was bitter. Enemies? I was a dog handler, not a spy. But you buying Storm, dragging me here, that's no coincidence. Someone wanted me to show up. Storm's sudden bark cut through, sharp and urgent, his nose pointed at the kennel's far end. Claire's instincts kicked in, her hand dropping to the knife in her boot. Quiet, boy, she whispered, motioning for James to follow. They crept toward the sound, Storm leading, his hackles raised. A faint metallic clank echoed, then silence. Claire's flashlight beam caught a glint, a second tracker, wired to a kennel lock, its lens aimed at Storm's cage. 2 in 1 day, Claire hissed, yanking it free. This isn't random, James. Someone's targeting Storm, or me. James's face paled, his voice low. Or the center. Robert's been cozy with some shady types. I didn't want to believe he'd... He stopped, a memory surfacing. There's a safe in my office, old records. If someone's paying for surveillance, there might be proof. Claire nodded, her resolve hardening. Then we check it. Now. Storm's with us. She looked at the dog, his eyes locked on her, ready to follow her into hell. The trackers, Robert's smugness, James's guilt. It was a puzzle, and Claire was done being a pawn. You owe me answers, she told James, her voice fierce. About Mom, about why you left, but first we find out who's playing games. James met her gaze, a flicker of pride breaking through his shame. All right, Claire. Let's move. As they headed for the office, Storm at their side, Claire's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Leave the dog and go, or you both pay. Her blood ran cold, but Storm's whine steadied her. Whoever was watching didn't know who they were up against. A soldier, her war dog, and a father with something to prove. The Oregon night draped the Larson Canine Training Center in a heavy, starless dark, the only light a faint glow from the office window. Claire Bennett crouched behind a stack of crates, her breath steady despite the adrenaline spiking her veins. Storm, her black German shepherd, pressed against her side, his yellow eyes locked on the kennel yard, a low growl rumbling in his throat. The two trackers, one from the arena, one from Storm's cage, sat heavy in her pocket, their blinking lights silenced but screaming danger. James Larson, her estranged father, knelt beside her, his silver hair glinting under the office's spillover light, his weathered hands gripping a flashlight. The threatening text: "Leave the dog and go, or you both pay," burned in Claire's mind. A warning someone was watching, closer than they'd thought. "Anything?" Claire whispered, her faded fatigues blending into the shadows. At 25, her brown hair was still tied under a red bandana, her scar tingling with the old instincts of Kandahar. James shook his head, his voice low. "Nothing yet." "But Storm's on edge. He smells something we don't." His eyes flicked to the dog, a mix of awe and unease. "You sure he's steady?" "PTSD makes him unpredictable." Claire's jaw tightened, her hand steadying Storm's collar. "He's steady with me, always has been." "You'd know that if you'd ever trusted him." Her words carried the weight of their fractured past. James's abandonment, her mother's death, the years of silence. James winced but didn't argue, his focus shifting to the office door. Safes inside. Old financial records, contracts. If Robert's dirty, proof's in there. His voice hardened at his brother's name. Suspicion growing since Claire's arrival stirred up trouble. A faint crunch of gravel snapped their attention to the yard. Storm's growl deepened, his ears pinned back, body coiled. Claire's hand dropped to the knife in her boot, her military training kicking in. "Someone's out there," she hissed, signaling Storm to stay. James doused the flashlight, plunging them into darkness. The kennel gate creaked, a shadow moving against the fence. Claire's pulse raced, her eyes straining to make out the figure, tall, hooded, carrying something small, metallic. Another tracker, or worse? Storm's hackles rose, but Claire's touch kept him silent. The figure paused, scanning the yard, then slipped toward the office, unaware of the trio hidden nearby. "Move," Claire whispered, rising with cat-like grace. James followed, his steps heavier but deliberate. Storm padded beside her, a silent predator, his training overriding his trauma. They flanked the office, Claire circling left, James right, boxing in the intruder. The figure reached the door, fumbling with a lockpick, oblivious to the trap closing. Claire sprang, her knife flashing as she grabbed the intruder's wrist, twisting hard. The man yelped, dropping the lockpick and a small device, a camera, its lens glinting. Storm lunged, pinning the man to the ground, teeth bared inches from his throat. "Don't move!" Claire snarled, her voice lethal. "Who sent you?" The man, young and wiry with a scruffy beard, froze under Storm's weight. "Nobody." I was just lying," James cut in, stepping into the light, his flashlight blinding the man. "That's a surveillance cam. Third device today." "Talk or the dog gets a taste." Storm's growl punctuated the threat, his white chest patch stark against his black fur. The man's eyes darted, panic setting in. Okay. "Some guy paid me. Cash, no name. Said to plant cameras, watch the dog. Didn't say why." Claire's blood ran cold, the text echoing. "Or you both pay." She pressed the knife closer. "Describe him." "Fancy suit, dark hair, maybe 50, the man stammered. "Met me at a bar in town, said the center's going under, needed eyes on it." James's face darkened. "Robert." He grabbed the camera, crushing it under his boot. "My brother's playing dirty, Claire. This is bigger than I thought." Claire released the man, shoving him toward the gate. "Get out. Tell your boss we're on to him." The man scrambled away, disappearing into the night. Storm relaxed, but his eyes stayed on the darkness, as if sensing more threats. Claire turned to James, her voice shaking with fury. Your brother's not just selling land, is he? He's sabotaging you, using Storm to do it. Why? James sighed, his shoulders sagging. Robert's wanted control for years, thinks I'm stuck in the past, keeping the center alive for tradition. He's cozy with developers, but cameras? That's new. He met her gaze, pain surfacing. I didn't know about you, Claire, not until the TV segment. Your mom. She never told me she was sick. Claire's throat tightened, tears threatening. She didn't want your pity. She raised me alone, James, while you sent checks and called it fatherhood. Storm whined, nuzzling her hand, grounding her. But I'm not here for you, I'm here for him. James nodded, his voice raw. Fair enough. But if Robert's behind this, we need those records. Now. Inside the office, the air was stale, cluttered with files and dog training gear. Storm paced, sniffing the corners, his growl returning as he pawed at a floorboard. Claire knelt, prying it loose, revealing a hidden USB drive taped underneath. Another surprise, she muttered, pocketing it. James unlocked the safe, pulling out a stack of yellowed contracts and bank statements. These go back 20 years, he said, flipping through them. Center's finances, my personal accounts. If Robert's fudging numbers, it's here. His eyes caught a letter, tucked among the papers, in Sarah's handwriting. He froze, his fingers trembling. What is it? Claire asked, her voice softening despite her anger. James handed her the letter, his voice barely audible. Your mom wrote this before she died. Said you were deploying, didn't want me to know. Thought it'd hurt less if I stayed away. Claire's hands shook as she read, Sarah's words cutting deep. Claire's strong, like you, but she doesn't need your shadow. Let her find her own way. Tears fell, blurring the ink. She kept you from me, Claire whispered, pain and love colliding. All those years I thought you didn't care. I cared, James choked out, tears in his eyes. I was a coward, Claire. Chose duty over you both. I don't expect forgiveness, but let me help you now. Storm's sudden bark shattered the moment, his body rigid facing the window. Claire's head snapped up, catching a glint outside, a rifle scope reflecting moonlight. Down, she shouted, tackling James as a shot rang out, shattering the glass. Storm lunged at the window, snarling as footsteps retreated into the night. Claire's heart pounded, the USB and letter clutched tight. Robert wasn't just watching, he was ready to kill. Who was pulling his strings, and why target Storm? The fight was just beginning, and Claire wasn't backing down. The Oregon night was a black shroud over the Larson K-9 Training Center, the shattered office window letting in a cold wind that smelled of pine and gunpowder. Claire Bennett crouched behind James Larson's desk, her heart hammering, her faded fatigues damp with sweat. Storm, her black German shepherd, stood rigid beside her, his yellow eyes locked on the darkness outside, a low growl rumbling from his chest. The gunshot, sharp, deliberate, still echoed in her ears, the bullet hole in the wall inches from where James had stood. At 25, Claire's brown hair clung to her red bandana, her scar throbbing with the adrenaline of survival. James, her estranged father, knelt nearby, his silver hair loose, his weathered face pale as he clutched a stack of financial records and her mother's letter. The USB drive Claire had found under the floorboard burned in her pocket, alongside 2 trackers and a threatening text. Leave the dog and go, or you both pay. Stay low, Claire whispered, her military training kicking in. Her knife was drawn, her eyes scanning the shadows beyond the broken glass. They're not done. James nodded, his voice hoarse. That wasn't a warning shot. Someone wants us dead. His eyes flicked to Storm, Then Claire, a mix of fear and guilt. This is my fault. Bringing Storm here, dragging you into it. Claire's jaw tightened, her grip on Storm's collar steadying her. Save the apologies, James. We need to move. Storm's growl deepened, his white chest patch stark in the dim light, his PTSD held at bay by her presence. She trusted him like she trusted no one else, not even the father who'd abandoned her. A faint rustle outside snapped their focus. Claire signaled Storm to stay, creeping toward the window, her boots silent on the splintered floor. James followed, his flashlight off, his old service pistol drawn from a drawer. The yard was a maze of crates and kennels, the other dogs barking wildly, masking any sound of the shooter. Claire's flashlight beam caught a glint, a spent shell casing gleaming in the dirt. 9 mil, she muttered, pocketing it. Professional. James's face darkened. Robert's mixed up with bad people. Developers, maybe worse. I should have seen it sooner. His voice cracked, the weight of his brother's betrayal heavy. He's been pushing to sell the center, but this... Claire's eyes narrowed, the USB drive a lead weight. Then we check it, now. She stood, motioning for James to follow. Storm led the way, nose low, sniffing for danger as they slipped out the back door, avoiding the open yard. The office was compromised, but the center's old storage shed had a computer, off-grid, secure. Claire's instincts screamed to run, but the truth was in those records, and she wasn't leaving without Storm or answers. The shed was a cluttered relic, smelling of oil and dog chow, its single bulb flickering. Claire booted up the ancient PC, inserting the USB. Storm paced, his growl intermittent, sensing threats beyond the thin walls. James locked the door, his pistol ready. If Robert's fudging numbers, it'll show up here, he said, peering over her shoulder. But Claire, if this goes deep, you could... Get hurt? Claire cut him off, her voice sharp as she opened encrypted files. I survived Kandahar, James. I can handle your brother. Her fingers flew, pulling up bank transfers, thousands funneled to an offshore account labeled Cascade Ventures. Dates matched equipment thefts, break-ins, and now the trackers. Robert's not just selling land, she said, her voice cold. He's laundering money, sabotaging the center to force a sale. James's face paled, his hand trembling. That's my brother. How could he? He stopped, staring at a file labeled S. Bennett. Claire's breath caught as she opened it. A scan of her mother's death certificate and a note. Keep her away. She'll ruin everything. He knew about me, Claire whispered, tears stinging. Robert wanted me gone before I even got here. Storm's sudden bark shattered the silence, his body lunging at the door. A deafening blast rocked the shed, flames licking the walls as an explosion tore through the nearby equipment barn. Claire dove, shielding James, Storm barking furiously as debris rained down. The shed's roof groaned, but held. They're flushing us out, Claire shouted, grabbing the USB and records. Go! They burst into the yard, the barn ablaze, its orange glow lighting up a figure sprinting toward a truck. Robert, his suit singed, a gas can in hand. Stop! James roared, raising his pistol, but Robert dove into the vehicle, tires screeching as it sped off. Storm lunged, nearly catching the bumper, but Claire called him back, her voice steady despite the chaos. He's running, she said, coughing through the smoke. But he's not alone. That explosion was planned. Her eyes scanned the yard, catching a glint near the kennels, a third tracker wired to a gas line. Her blood ran cold. They're targeting Storm's cage. They want him dead. James's face twisted, rage and guilt colliding. Robert's selling us out, but why Storm? What's he got to do with it? Claire's mind raced, the pieces jagged but forming a picture. Storm's my link to you. They knew I'd come for him, expose Robert's game. He's a loose end. She knelt, stroking Storm's fur, his whine grounding her. We need help. Someone you trust. James hesitated, then nodded. Sarah Mitchell, local detective, ex-Marine, knew your mom. She'll listen. He pulled out his phone, dialing, but Claire's attention snagged on the records in her hand, a contract with Cascade Ventures, signed by a name she didn't recognize, Victor Hale. Her pulse spiked, a new player pulling Robert's strings. Before James could connect, Storm's growl erupted, his body tensing as headlights flared down the road. A black SUV barreled toward them, its windows tinted, no plates. Claire's instincts screamed ambush. "Run!" she yelled, grabbing James and sprinting for the kennels, Storm at her heels. The SUV skidded, doors flying open, two armed men leaping out, their rifles raised. Claire dove behind a crate, James beside her as bullets tore into the wood. Storm snarled, ready to attack, but Claire's command held him back. "Who the hell are they?" James gasped, his pistol shaking. "Cascade," Claire hissed, her knife ready. Robert's bosses. The explosion, the trackers, her mother's letter, it was a trap, and they'd walked right into it. Storm's eyes burned with loyalty, his body a shield. Claire's heart pounded, but she wasn't losing him, or the truth. "We fight," she told James, her voice fierce. "For Mom, for Storm." The night was far from over, and Claire was ready to prove them wrong. The Oregon night burned, the Larson Canine Training Center's equipment barn a roaring inferno against the starless sky. Claire Bennett crouched behind a kennel crate, her faded fatigues soaked with sweat, her brown hair matted under a red bandana. Bullets splintered the wood above her head, the black SUV's gunman closing in. Storm, her black German shepherd, pressed against her, his yellow eyes blazing, his growl a steady anchor despite the chaos. At 25, Claire's scar throbbed, her Kandahar instincts screaming. James Larson, her estranged father, huddled beside her, his silver hair wild, his service pistol trembling in his hands. The USB drive, financial records, and her mother's letter were stuffed in her pack, proof of Robert's betrayal and a mysterious Victor Hale's involvement. The trackers, the explosion, the ambush, it was all connected, and Claire was done running. "Stay down!" Claire hissed, her knife drawn, peering through the crate's slats. The gunmen, 2, maybe 3, fanned out, their rifles sweeping the yard. Storm's hackles rose, but her touch kept him still, his PTSD no match for their bond. "We're pinned." "We need a way out." James's face was grim, smoke stinging his eyes. "Back gate's 50 yards, leads to the woods." "If we can reach it." His voice cracked, guilt-heavy. "Claire, I'm sorry. This is my mess. Robert, the center, you." "Save it," Claire snapped, her voice sharp but softening at his pain. "We survive first, then talk." She scanned the kennels, the barking dogs masking their whispers. The SUV idled, its headlights cutting through the haze. A third figure emerged, Robert Larson, his suit charred, shouting orders. Claire's blood boiled. He'd set the fire, lured the gunmen, and now he was hunting them. Storm's growl spiked, his nose twitching toward a nearby kennel. Claire followed his gaze, spotting a glint, a gas canister rigged to a timer, seconds from blowing. "They're gonna torch the dogs!" she gasped, her heart lurching. She bolted upright, ignoring James's protest, and sprinted for the canister, Storm at her heels. Bullets whizzed past, grazing her arm, but she dove, yanking the wires free with trembling hands. The timer stopped at 3 seconds. "Claire!" James yelled, firing at the gunmen, forcing them to duck. She scrambled back, blood trickling from her arm, Storm shielding her with his body. "You're insane," James panted, his eyes wide with fear and pride. "Just like your mom." "No time for flattery," Claire said, wincing but steady. "We need those woods." She whistled, and Storm led, weaving through crates, his training flawless. James followed, his shots covering their retreat. The gunmen regrouped, Robert's voice barking commands. "Find them!" "Hale wants the dog dead." Claire's pulse surged. Hale, the name on the contract, pulling Robert's strings. They reached the gate, Claire's knife slicing through the padlock. The woods loomed, dark and dense, but gunfire erupted, forcing them to dive behind a log. Storm snarled, ready to attack, but Claire's command held him. "Not yet, boy," she whispered, her hand on his white chest patch. "We need answers first." James's phone buzzed. Detective Sarah Mitchell, his old Marine buddy. He answered, voice low. "Sarah, we're under attack at the center. Robert's gone rogue, hired guns. We need backup now." He listened, then cursed. "She's 10 minutes out. We're on our own." Claire's mind raced, the USB drive a lifeline. "We can't wait." If Hale wants Storm, there's a reason. Something in these records. She pulled out her burner phone, risking a quick hack into the center's cloud server, using skills from her Ranger days. The USB's files loaded, bank transfers, but also a classified military report on Storm's last mission. Her breath caught. Storm sniffed out a weapons cache in Kandahar, tied to a black market ring. Hale's name's here. Arms dealer. James's eyes widened, horror dawning. Robert's working with an arms dealer to sell the center? Or more, Claire said, her voice grim. Storm's a witness in a way. They want him gone before he leads us to the truth. She pocketed the phone, the stakes skyrocketing. A twig snapped nearby, and Storm's growl turned feral. Claire spun, spotting a gunman creeping through the trees, his rifle aimed. Before she could react, Storm lunged, silent and lethal, tackling the man. His scream cut off as Storm's jaws clamped his arm, disarming him without killing, a move Claire had trained him for. "Good boy," Claire whispered, zip-tying the gunman's wrists. James dragged him behind the log, his face pale. "He's incredible," he said, awe breaking through. "You two, you're unstoppable." Claire's throat tightened, her mother's letter flashing in her mind. "He's family, James, something you wouldn't understand." Her words stung, but regret flickered as James looked away, pain raw in his eyes. A new sound, engines, multiple vehicles roared from the road. Claire peeked out, spotting 2 more SUVs joining Robert's, men spilling out, armed to the teeth. "Hale's not playing," she muttered, counting at least 6. The center's dogs howled, the fire spreading, sirens faint in the distance. Mitchell was close, but not close enough. "We can't fight them all," James said, his voice desperate. "Claire, take Storm and run." "I'll hold them off." "No way," Claire shot back, her voice fierce. "I'm not losing you, not after finding you. We do this together." Storm pressed against her, his whine a vow of loyalty. She scanned the woods, spotting a narrow trail leading to an old shed. Tom's hideout, James had called it, stocked with gear. "There," she said, pointing. "We make a stand. Buy time for Mitchell." James nodded, a spark of resolve in his eyes. "Like old times," he said, a ghost of a smile. "Your mom'd be proud." Claire's heart ached. Sarah's words. "Let her find her own way." Echoing. "She'd want us to fight," she said, tears brimming. They sprinted for the shed, Storm leading, bullets tearing through the trees. Inside, Claire found a rifle, ammo, and a flare gun. But the twist came as she opened a dusty box, a photo of her as a baby in James's arms, Sarah smiling beside them. Her breath hitched. He'd kept it all these years. "Claire, they're coming!" James shouted, barricading the door. Storm snarled, ready for war. The photo, Hale's name, Robert's betrayal, it was personal now. Claire loaded the rifle, her voice steady. "Let's show them what Untamed really means." The door rattled, and the fight was on. The Oregon woods were a labyrinth of shadows, the Larson Canine Training Center's burning barn casting an eerie glow through the pines. Claire Bennett braced against the shed's splintered door, her faded fatigues torn, her brown hair loose under her red bandana. Blood seeped from the graze on her arm, but her grip on the rifle was steady, her scar pulsing with adrenaline. Storm, her black German shepherd, stood beside her, his yellow eyes locked on the door, his white chest patch stark against his fur. His growl was a low, steady promise of protection, his PTSD no match for their bond. James Larson, her estranged father, loaded a flare gun, his silver hair matted with sweat, his weathered face set with grim resolve. The USB drive, financial records, and Sarah's letter were safe in Claire's pack, but Victor Hale's gunmen, 6, maybe more, were closing in, their footsteps crunching through the underbrush. Robert's betrayal and Hale's arms-dealing shadow loomed larger than ever. 3 on the left, Claire whispered, peering through a crack in the wall. 2 circling right. They're boxing us in. Her ranger training kept her voice calm, but her heart raced. Storm's ears twitched, sensing the enemy's approach. James's hands shook, his pistol ready. Mitchell's close. We just need to hold them off. His eyes met Claire's, raw with guilt. I should have stopped Robert years ago. If I'd been there for you, for your mom. Focus, Claire snapped, softening at his pain. We're in this now, together. Storm pressed against her, his whine grounding her. The photo she'd found, her as a baby in James's arms, burned in her mind, a reminder of what they'd lost and what they could still fight for. A shout outside broke the tension. "Come out, Larson!" a gruff voice called. "Hand over the dog, the records, and the girl walks!" Claire's blood chilled. They knew about the USB. Hale wasn't just after Storm. He wanted the evidence tying him to the black market weapons ring. James's face hardened. They're bluffing. They won't let us walk. He glanced at Claire, his voice low. You could run, Claire. Take Storm. Get to Mitchell. No, Claire said, her voice fierce. I'm done running. They want Storm. They go through me. Storm's growl echoed her resolve, his body coiled for action. She checked the rifle. 10 rounds left. The flare gun was their wild card. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing. 5 minutes, maybe less. A twig snapped, too close. Claire signaled Storm, who darted to the side wall, sniffing a loose board. Her eyes widened, a hidden trapdoor barely visible under dust. James, here! She hissed, prying it open. It led to a crawl space, likely Tom's old escape route. We can flank them. James hesitated, then nodded. Smart, like your mom. His voice cracked, Sarah's memory a wound they both carried. They slipped into the crawl space, Storm leading, his claws silent on the dirt. The shed shook as gunmen kicked the door, their curses muffled. Claire's pack snagged, the USB slipping free. She grabbed it, heart pounding, and crawled on. The tunnel opened into a thicket, the barn's flames lighting the night. Claire emerged, rifle raised, Storm scanning for threats. James followed, flare gun ready. They crept toward the gunmen, now ransacking the shed, unaware of their escape. Claire's eyes caught a glint near the barn, a laptop half buried in rubble, its screen flickering. Roberts? Her gut screamed it was a clue, but gunfire erupted, forcing them to duck. Split up, Claire whispered. I'll grab the laptop. You draw their fire. James's eyes widened, but he nodded, trust flickering. He fired the flare gun skyward, its red arc lighting the woods, signaling Mitchell. The gunman spun, shooting wildly, giving Claire cover. She sprinted, Storm at her heels, diving for the laptop as bullets tore the ground. Her fingers closed around it, the screen showing an email. Hail to Robert, eliminate the dog. She's too close. Claire's blood ran cold. She was the target, not just Storm. A scream cut through. James, pinned by a gunman, his pistol knocked away. Claire's heart stopped. "Storm, go!" she commanded. The German Shepherd launched, a black blur, tackling the gunman, his jaws disarming without killing. James scrambled free, grabbing his gun, but a new figure emerged. Robert, his suit torn, a pistol aimed at Claire. "You should have left, Claire," Robert snarled, his eyes wild. "Hale's got plans and you're in the way." He fired, the bullet grazing her shoulder. Claire staggered, dropping the laptop, but Storm spun, lunging at Robert. The shot went wide, and Robert stumbled, cursing as Storm pinned him, teeth inches from his throat. "Call him off!" Robert shrieked, his bravado gone. Claire staggered to her feet, blood soaking her fatigues, and whistled. Storm backed off, growling, but stayed close. James ran to her, his face ashen. "You're hit!" he gasped, tearing his shirt to bind her wound. "I'm fine," Claire lied, pain searing. She grabbed the laptop, her voice fierce. "Robert, talk. What's Hale planning? Why me?" Robert laughed, bitter and broken. "You're Sarah's kid. She dug into Hale's deals before she died, sent me proof. I buried it, but you showing up, with that damn dog, you're stirring it all up." Claire's world tilted, a twist she hadn't seen. "Mom knew about Hale?" Her voice shook, Sarah's letter flashing. Let her find her own way. Had Sarah been protecting her from this? Tears burned, but headlights flooded the yard. Mitchell's squad cars, sirens blaring. The gunmen scattered, 2 tackled by deputies, the rest vanishing into the woods. Mitchell, a tough ex-Marine with short blonde hair, ran to them, her gun drawn. "Claire James, you okay?" Her eyes widened at Claire's wound. "Medics now!" Claire swayed, clutching the laptop, Storm's warmth steadying her. "Robert's working for Victor Hale," she said, voice fading. "Arms dealer. Mom found proof." "It's on here." She handed Mitchell the laptop, her vision blurring. James caught her as she stumbled, his voice breaking. "Claire, stay with me." "I lost your mom. I'm not losing you." His tears fell, the first time she'd seen him cry. Storm whined, nuzzling her, his loyalty unbreakable. Mitchell cuffed Robert, her voice grim. "Hale's a ghost, but this'll help. You two saved the center tonight." She glanced at Storm, respect in her eyes. "And that dog's a damn hero." Claire's eyes fluttered, pain overwhelming, but she gripped James's hand. "Mom fought for this," she whispered. "So will I." As medics rushed in, Storm stood guard, his growl a promise. Hale was out there, and the truth was bigger than they'd imagined. Claire's fight wasn't over, not for Storm, not for her mother's legacy, and not for the father she was just beginning to know. The Oregon dawn broke cold and gray, the Larson Canine Training Center smoldering in the aftermath of the night's chaos. Claire Bennett sat on a gurney outside the kennels, her shoulder bandaged, the pain dulled by adrenaline and painkillers. Her faded fatigues were blood-stained, her brown hair loose, the red bandana stuffed in her pocket. Storm, her black German shepherd, lay at her feet, his yellow eyes vigilant, his white chest patch flecked with ash. The barn was a charred skeleton, but the dogs were safe, thanks to Claire's quick thinking. James Larson stood nearby, his silver hair tied back, his weathered face etched with exhaustion and guilt. The USB drive, financial records, and Sarah's letter were with Detective Sarah Mitchell, who was questioning Robert Larson in a squad car. Victor Hale's name, an arms dealer tied to Claire's mother, hung like a specter, his gunmen's attack a warning of deeper danger. Claire's heart pounded, Robert's confession echoing. Sarah dug into Hale's deals before she died. Mitchell approached, her blonde hair tucked under a cap, her ex-Marine grit softened by concern. "Claire, You need a hospital." "That shoulder's no joke." She glanced at Storm, a faint smile. "Your dog's a miracle, keeping you both alive." Claire shook her head, wincing as she shifted. "I'm fine." "What's Robert saying? He knew Mom was onto Hale. Why hide it?" Her voice trembled, Sarah's memory a fresh wound. Mitchell sighed, her eyes on James. "He's clamming up, but the laptop's a gold mine. Emails, transfers, Hale's orders to torch the center. Robert was laundering money for him, using the land deal as cover. Your mom's proof must have scared him." James's shoulders sagged, his voice raw. "Sarah was always fearless. I should have listened when she warned me about Robert's investors. I failed her, Claire." "And you?" His eyes met hers, tears brimming, the photo of them as a family burning in his mind. Claire's throat tightened, anger warring with grief. "You failed us by leaving, James." "But Mom fought for me, for truth. I'm finishing what she started." Storm whined, nuzzling her hand, his loyalty a lifeline. She stood, ignoring the pain, her resolve steel. "We need to find Hale. He's the key." Before Mitchell could respond, a pickup truck rattled into the yard, kicking up dust. Eleanor Gray, a wiry woman in her 70s with gray braids and a denim jacket, stepped out, her eyes sharp despite her age. Claire tensed. Eleanor was a former trainer, a friend of Sarah's, but Storm's low growl set her on edge. "Easy, boy," Claire whispered, calming him. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Eleanor's gaze flicked from Claire to James, her voice steady but heavy. "Heard about the fire. Came to check on you. And to talk." She pulled a worn journal from her bag, Sarah's handwriting on the cover. Claire's breath caught, her heart lurching. "That's Mom's," Claire said, voice shaking. "How do you have it?" Eleanor handed it to her, eyes soft with regret. "Sarah gave it to me before she passed. Said to keep it safe until you were ready. It's her notes on Hale, deals, contacts, proof she sent to Robert. But there's more." She paused, glancing at James. "She wrote about you, Claire, and why she kept James away." Claire's hands trembled as she opened the journal, Sarah's words leaping off the page. "James loves Claire, but his family's poison. Robert threatened to ruin him if we stayed together. I told him to go, to protect her." Tears spilled, the twist cutting deep. "Mom pushed you away?" Claire whispered, looking at James. "To shield me from Robert?" James's face crumpled, his voice breaking. "I didn't know, Claire. Sarah said she couldn't raise you in my world, with Robert scheming. I thought I was doing right, staying away." He reached for her, but stopped, shame halting him. "I was weak. I should have fought for you both." Claire clutched the journal, grief and rage colliding. "You both decided for me. I grew up thinking you didn't want me." Storm pressed against her, his whine a bomb. She turned to Eleanor, voice fierce. "Why now? Why give me this after the attack?" Eleanor's eyes darkened, her voice low. "Because Hale's men came for me last night. Wanted the journal. I hid it, but they're closing in. Sarah trusted me to get this to you, Claire. You're the only one who can stop him." Mitchell's radio crackled, a deputy's voice urgent. "Detective, we've got a hit on Hale, spotted at a warehouse 10 miles out, armed, maybe with Robert's crew." Claire's pulse surged. The warehouse, Hale's base, where the weapons cache Storm sniffed out in Kandahar, might connect. "We go," Claire said, standing, pain be damned. "Hale's got answers about Mom, about Storm." She looked at James, her voice softer. "You in?" James nodded, tears falling. "For you. For Sarah." He grabbed his pistol, resolve hardening. Storm rose, his growl a promise of loyalty. Mitchell hesitated. "Claire, you're hurt. Let my team handle it." "No," Claire said, her eyes blazing. This is personal. Storm and I started this. We finish it. She stroked his black fur, his white patch a symbol of their shared scars. Eleanor stepped forward, handing Claire a key. Sarah's old storage unit, near the warehouse. More evidence, if you need it. She believed in you, always. Claire pocketed the key, a new weight. The journal's pages fluttered, revealing a photo tucked inside. Sarah and Claire laughing, Storm as a puppy at their feet. Claire's heart broke, but it fueled her. "Let's move," she said, leading the way to Mitchell's SUV, Storm at her side, James close behind. The warehouse loomed, a rusted hulk under flickering streetlights. Claire's shoulder ached, but she ignored it, rifle ready, Storm sniffing the perimeter. Mitchell's team fanned out, silent. James clutched Sarah's journal, his voice a whisper. "Claire, if we don't make it, I need you to know, I loved you, every day." Claire's tears fell, but she nodded. "I'm starting to believe you. Now let's end this." Storm's sudden growl snapped her focus, a guard patrolling with a rifle. Before she could react, Storm darted, silent, disarming the man with a precise bite. The guard crumpled, and Claire zip-tied him, her heart racing. But the twist came as she checked his pockets. A burner phone with a text from Hale. "Kill the girl. She's Sarah's heir." Claire's blood froze. Sarah hadn't just found proof. She'd been Hale's target, and now Claire was in his crosshairs. The warehouse doors loomed, and Claire knew Hale was inside and the truth was waiting. The Oregon night was a suffocating shroud around the rusted warehouse, its hulking frame lit only by flickering streetlights and the distant glow of the Larson Canine Training Center's smoldering ruins. Claire Bennett crouched behind a stack of crates, her shoulder throbbing beneath blood-soaked bandages, her faded fatigues torn. Her brown hair hung loose, the red bandana lost in the chaos. Storm, her black German shepherd, pressed against her, his yellow eyes piercing the dark, his white chest patch a stark beacon. His growl was low, steady, his PTSD buried beneath their unbreakable bond. James Larson, her estranged father, knelt beside her, his silver hair matted, his weathered face taut with fear and determination, his pistol gripped tight. Detective Sarah Mitchell's team fanned out, shadows among the crates, but Claire's focus was the warehouse door. Victor Hale was inside, the arms dealer who'd targeted her mother, Sarah, and now her. The USB drive, Sarah's journal, and the burner phone's text. "Kill the girl. She's Sarah's heir," burned in her mind. Proof Hale's vendetta was personal. "2 guards, east side," Claire whispered, her ranger training sharpening her senses. Her rifle was low, pain screaming with every move. "Storm's got their scent." "We hit fast before Hale bolts." James's eyes flicked to her wound, his voice raw. "Claire, you're bleeding out. Let Mitchell take point." "I can't lose you, not after—" His words caught, Sarah's letter and the photo of them as a family haunting him. Claire's jaw clenched, tears stinging, but resolve unbroken. "We end this, James. For Mom, for Storm." She stroked Storm's black fur, his whine a vow. She fought Hale. "I'm finishing it." The journal's revelation, Sarah's choice to keep James away to protect Claire from Robert's schemes, fueled her fire. Mitchell signaled from the shadows, her blonde hair tucked under a cap. "My team's ready." "Hale's got at least 4 men inside, maybe more. We breach on your call, Claire." Her eyes held respect, but worry lingered. "Storm's your ace." "Use him." Claire nodded, her hand on Storm's collar. "Now." She whistled softly, and Storm darted forward, a silent blur, leading them to a side entrance. Mitchell's deputies disabled the guards with swift precision, their muffled grunts swallowed by the night. Claire slipped inside, Storm at her side, James and Mitchell close behind. The warehouse was a maze of crates and machinery, the air thick with oil and metal. Dim lights revealed a makeshift office at the far end, voices echoing, Hale's sharp and commanding. Claire's heart pounded. The burner phone's text, a death sentence. She crept forward, rifle raised, Storm sniffing for traps. James's hand brushed her arm, his voice a whisper. Claire, if I'd known Sarah was fighting Hale, I'd have been there, I swear. Her throat tightened, his regret piercing. You're here now, she said, voice soft but firm. That's enough. Storm's sudden freeze halted them, his nose pointing to a tripwire glinting across the path. Claire's breath hitched. She disarmed it, her hands steady despite the pain. Hale's not playing, she muttered, moving on. The office door loomed, Hale's voice clearer. Robert failed. The girl's got the journal. Find her, or we're done. Claire's blood ran cold. Sarah's proof was the key, and Hale knew it. She signaled Mitchell, who nodded, prepping a flashbang. But Storm's growl spiked, his body tensing as a shadow moved behind them. A guard, rifle raised. Claire spun, but Storm was faster, leaping, his jaws clamping the man's arm, disarming him without bloodshed. The guard crumpled, Claire zip-tying him, but the noise drew attention. Intruders! A shout rang out, and the warehouse erupted. Hale's men, 5, heavily armed, swarmed from the office, gunfire tearing through crates. Claire dove for cover, dragging James, Storm shielding them both. Mitchell's team returned fire, the air thick with smoke and chaos. Claire's shoulder screamed, but she aimed, dropping one gunman with a clean shot. Storm! Flank! She commanded, and the German shepherd circled, a black phantom, tackling another man, his precision flawless. James fired, his voice desperate. Claire, get to Hale. I'll cover you. His eyes burned with a father's fear, the photo of baby Claire in his arms driving him. She nodded, sprinting for the office, Storm at her heels, bullets grazing her leg. The door was ajar. Hale inside, a lean man in his 50s, gray suit pristine, a laptop open, shredding files. His cold eyes met hers, recognition flashing. Sarah's girl, Hale sneered, drawing a pistol. You're as stubborn as she was. Should have stayed away. He aimed, but Storm lunged, knocking him back, the gun skittering across the floor. Claire dove, grabbing it, her rifle trained on Hale as Storm pinned him, teeth bared. Talk, Claire snarled, blood dripping, her voice shaking with rage. Why'd you kill my mom? What's in the journal? Hale laughed, blood on his lip. Sarah found my network, weapons, money, power. She mailed proof to Robert, thinking he'd help. He buried it, but you're digging it up. His eyes gleamed, a twist unraveling. She didn't die of cancer, Claire. I made sure of that. Claire's world shattered, her vision blurring with tears. You poisoned her? Her voice broke, Sarah's smile in the journal flashing. Storm's growl deepened, sensing her pain, his jaws tightening on Hale's arm. You bastard. Hale winced, but his smile held. She was collateral. You're next. Unless you hand over that journal. He nodded at the door, where a new figure appeared, Robert, free, a rifle aimed at Claire. Mitchell's team was pinned outside, outnumbered. Drop it, Claire, Robert said, his voice cold. Hale's right, you're a liability. James burst in, tackling Robert, the rifle firing wild, grazing Storm's flank. The dog yelped, but held Hale, loyalty overriding pain. Claire lunged, disarming Robert with a swift kick, zip-tying him as James pinned him down. You sold us out, James roared, tears streaming. My brother, working with a murderer. His fist shook, Sarah's death a fresh wound. Claire turned to Hale, her voice lethal. Where's the proof? The network, Mom's murder. Where is it? She pressed the pistol to his chest, Storm's growl a death knell. "Laptop," Hale gasped, fear breaking his calm. "Encrypted drive, it's all there." Claire grabbed it, Mitchell storming in with deputies, cuffing Hale. The warehouse fell quiet, the remaining gunmen subdued, sirens blaring as backup arrived. Claire sank to her knees, stroking Storm's wounded flank, tears falling. "You're okay, boy," she whispered, his whine softening her pain. James knelt beside her, his voice breaking. "I didn't know, Claire. Sarah, I loved her." "I'm so sorry." She looked at him, grief and forgiveness warring. "We got him," she said, clutching the laptop. "For her." Storm nuzzled her, his loyalty a bridge between father and daughter. But Hale's final sneer lingered. "You're next." The network was still out there, and Claire's fight was far from over. The Oregon morning was heavy with mist, cloaking the Larson Canine Training Center in a ghostly haze. The charred remains of the equipment barn loomed like a wound, but the kennels stood intact, dogs barking softly in the dawn. Claire Bennett sat on a bench outside the main office, her shoulders stitched and bandaged, her faded fatigues swapped for a clean flannel and jeans. Her brown hair hung loose, free of the red bandana, her scar a quiet reminder of the night's battle. Storm, her black German shepherd, lay at her feet, his yellow eyes calm, his white chest patch clean despite the graze on his flank. The warehouse raid had brought Victor Hale and Robert Larson to justice, but Hale's chilling revelation: Sarah didn't die of cancer. Cut deeper than any bullet. Claire clutched her mother's journal, its pages a lifeline to Sarah's fight against Hale's arms-dealing network. James Larson, her estranged father, stood nearby, his silver hair tied back, his weathered face softer but still shadowed by guilt. Detective Sarah Mitchell was inside, combing through Hale's laptop, chasing leads on the network's remnants. Claire's fingers traced Sarah's handwriting, her voice low. She knew Hale was dirty. "Kept it from me to protect me." Tears welled, the journal's photo, Sarah and baby Claire with puppy Storm, burning in her heart. "Why didn't she tell me, James?" James sat beside her, his voice rough with grief. "Sarah was a fighter, Claire. She thought shielding you was the only way. I should have been there, fought with her." His eyes glistened, the memory of Sarah's letter. Let her find her own way, a weight he'd carry forever. "I failed you both, but I'm here now. If you'll let me." Claire's throat tightened, anger fading into something fragile. "I hated you for so long," she admitted, her voice cracking. "But Mom wanted us to find each other." "I'm trying, James." Storm whined, nuzzling her hand, his loyalty a bridge across their broken past. Mitchell emerged, her blonde hair mussed, her ex-Marine grit softened by exhaustion. "Hale's talking," she said, holding a tablet. "His network's bigger than we thought. Contacts in D.C., overseas. Sarah's journal gave us names, but there's a ghost account tied to someone local, not Robert." Her eyes flicked to Claire. "You stirred this up, Claire. Hale's scared of you." Claire's pulse quickened, Hale's sneer, "You're next," echoing. "A local." "Who?" She stood, wincing, Storm rising with her, his growl faint but alert. Before Mitchell could answer, Eleanor Gray's pickup rolled into the yard, the 70-year-old trainer stepping out, her gray braid swaying, her denim jacket dusty. Her sharp eyes locked on Claire, carrying a weight beyond the journal she'd delivered. "We need to talk," Eleanor said, her voice low, urgent. "Alone." James frowned, but Claire nodded, trusting Eleanor's connection to Sarah. They walked to the kennel yard, Storm trailing, his nose twitching as if sensing a shift. Eleanor pulled a small, sealed envelope from her pocket, Sarah's handwriting on it. "For Claire, when it's time." Claire's breath caught, her hands trembling as she opened it, revealing a single page and a key taped inside. "It's Mom's," Claire whispered, reading aloud. "Claire, if you're reading this, you've found the truth about Hale. The keys for my safe deposit box. First National, Portland. Evidence more than the journal. Hale's not the top. Trust Eleanor." "She knows." Claire's eyes widened, meeting Eleanor's. "You knew Mom's plan. What's in the box?" Eleanor's face tightened, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sarah tracked Hale's boss, a man called Viper, politician, maybe military. She didn't tell me his name, said it was too dangerous. The box has documents, recordings, enough to bury him. But Hale's men are hunting it." She glanced at Storm, who growled softly, sensing a threat. "You and that dog. You're Sarah's legacy. Finish what she started." Claire's heart raced, the twist sinking in. Viper, a puppet master above Hale, tied to her mother's murder. She gripped the key, resolve hardening. "I'm going to Portland. Now." Storm pressed against her, his whine a vow to follow. James, overhearing, stepped closer, his voice desperate. "Claire, you're hurt." "Let Mitchell handle it. Viper's out of our league." His eyes pleaded, the photo of baby Claire in his arms, a silent anchor. "No," Claire said, her voice fierce but cracking. "Mom died for this. I won't let it go." She looked at Storm, his eyes blazing with loyalty, then at James, softer. "Come with me. Be the father she wanted you to be." James's tears fell, his nod firm. "I'm in. For you, for Sarah." He turned to Mitchell, who was already on her radio, calling for a team to secure the bank. But Storm's sudden bark cut through, his body tensing, nose pointed at the woods. Claire spun, spotting a glint, binoculars reflecting the rising sun. Someone was watching. "Mitchell!" Claire shouted, rifle raised. The detective drew her gun, deputies fanning out, but a shot rang out, grazing Eleanor's arm. The old trainer stumbled, Claire catching her, Storm lunging toward the trees, his growl feral. "Stay with her!" Claire yelled to James, sprinting after Storm. Pain be damned. The woods swallowed her, branches clawing, but Storm's nose led true, tracking the sniper to a clearing. A man in tactical gear aimed a rifle, but Storm tackled him, disarming with a precise bite. Claire zip-tied him, her voice lethal. "Who's Viper? Talk!" The man spat, eyes cold. "You're dead, Bennett. Viper owns this town." Storm's snarl silenced him, but Claire's blood chilled. She dragged him back, deputies taking him, Eleanor stable but shaken. Mitchell's face was grim. "He's ex-mercenary, hired muscle. Viper's closing the net." Claire clutched the key, Sarah's words echoing, "Trust Eleanor." She looked at the trainer, voice trembling. "You knew Mom was murdered. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Eleanor's eyes glistened, regret raw. "Sarah made me swear to protect you until you were ready." "You're ready now, Claire. You and Storm. You're unstoppable." She gripped Claire's hand, her voice fierce. "Get that box." "End this." James stood, his pistol ready, his voice steady. "We do this together, Claire. No more running." Storm nuzzled her, his flank bandaged but strong, a hero unbroken. Claire nodded, tears falling but resolve ironclad. Viper was out there, and the safe deposit box held the final piece of Sarah's fight. The center was safe, Hale was down, but the real battle loomed. Claire was Sarah's heir, and with Storm and James, she'd prove them wrong, one last time. The Oregon sun bathed the Larson Canine Training Center in a warm golden glow, a stark contrast to the scars of its recent battles. The charred barn was gone, replaced by a new training arena buzzing with activity. Claire Bennett stood at its center, her brown hair tied back, a fresh red bandana bright against her clean jeans and flannel. At 25, her scar was a quiet badge of survival. Her shoulder healed, but her heart still mending. Storm, her black German shepherd, sat proudly beside her, his yellow eyes calm, his white chest patch gleaming, the graze on his flank a fading memory. Today was the launch of the Larson Veteran Canine Program, a tribute to Sarah Bennett's legacy, using Claire's vision to train service dogs for veterans with PTSD. James Larson, her father, watched from the sidelines, his silver hair loose, his weathered face softened by pride. The safe deposit box, opened in Portland with Eleanor Gray's guidance, had exposed Viper, a corrupt state senator named Edward Vance, now facing federal charges alongside Victor Hale. Sarah's murder was avenged, but the cost lingered. Claire adjusted the microphone, addressing the crowd of locals, veterans, and reporters. "This program honors my mom, Sarah Bennett," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "She fought for truth, for me, for all of us. With Storm, we're carrying her fight forward, helping warriors heal, one dog at a time." Storm's tail thumped, his loyalty a beacon. The crowd applauded, cameras flashing, but Claire's eyes found James, a silent acknowledgement of their fragile bond. James approached, his voice low, eyes glistening. "You're her spitting image, Claire. Brave, stubborn, unstoppable." He paused, the photo of baby Claire in his arms, a shared memory. "I don't deserve you, but I'm damn proud to be your dad." Claire's throat tightened, tears brimming. "You're here now, James. That's what Mom wanted." She hugged him, brief but fierce, Storm nuzzling them both, a bridge across decades of pain. "We're family, flaws and all." Eleanor Gray, her gray braids swaying in her denim jacket, joined them, her sharp eyes warm. "Sarah's smiling today," she said, handing Claire a small wooden box. "Sarah's from the safe deposit. She left this for you. Open it later when you're ready." Claire took it, her fingers tracing the carved wolf emblem, a piece of her mother's heart. Detective Sarah Mitchell stood nearby, her blonde hair tucked under a cap, her ex-Marine grit softened by a smile. "Hale's network's collapsing," she said, nodding at Claire. "Vance's arrest opened the floodgates. Dozens indicted thanks to your mom's evidence. You and Storm broke this wide open." Claire stroked Storm's black fur, his whine grounding her. "He's the real hero," she said, kneeling to kiss his head. "Saved me in Kandahar, saved us here. Every dog in this program's got that heart." The crowd cheered as Storm barked, a joyful sound that echoed Sarah's laugh in Claire's memory, but a shadow lingered. Last night, a cryptic letter had arrived at the center, postmarked from an unknown source. Vance was a pawn, the real Vipers watching. Claire hadn't told James, not today, but Storm's restless pacing that morning hinted at danger still lurking. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the moment. Her mother's justice, her father's redemption, Storm's triumph. Mitchell raised a glass of sparkling cider, her voice carrying, "To Claire, James, and Storm, the toughest team Oregon's ever seen." Laughter rippled, veterans toasting, kids petting the center's dogs. Claire smiled, but her eyes caught a figure at the crowd's edge, a man in a dark coat watching, then vanishing into the trees. Storm's growl was faint, his eyes tracking the spot. Claire's pulse quickened, the letter's warning real. Viper wasn't done. James noticed her tension, his voice low. "What's wrong, Claire?" He followed her gaze, his hand brushing his pistol, a father's instinct now sharp. "Nothing," Claire lied, her smile forced. "Just keeping watch." She wouldn't ruin today, not with the program's launch, not with James finally at her side. Storm pressed against her, his warmth a promise. He'd be ready, whatever came next. Eleanor pulled Claire aside, her voice a whisper. Sarah knew the fight wasn't over. That box, it's got one last secret. When you're strong enough, open it. Claire nodded, the weight of her mother's legacy heavy but empowering. She'd face Viper, but not alone. As the ceremony wound down, Claire took the mic again, her voice clear, heartfelt. This center's more than a place. It's a home for second chances. For dogs like Storm, for people like us, share your stories with us. What's your loyal pet taught you about healing? She grinned, glancing at James. Join our community. Let's keep this fight going. The crowd roared, veterans sharing tales, kids tossing balls for the dogs. James squeezed her shoulder, his voice thick. Your mom'd be so proud, Claire. You proved 'em all wrong, me included. Claire's tears fell, but she laughed, Storm barking beside her. We did it together, Dad. The words slipped out, natural, healing. Storm nuzzled them, his tail wagging, a hero at peace. The center thrived, the program a beacon for veterans, but Claire knew the letter's shadow loomed. Viper was out there, and Sarah's final secret waited in the box. For now she held this moment. Family, love, justice, tight, with Storm's heart beating strong beside her. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows, Claire and James walked the kennels, Storm trotting ahead. What's next for us? James asked, hope in his eyes. Claire smiled, the wolf box in her pocket. We keep fighting. For Mom, for Storm, for every dog and vet who needs us. Storm barked, chasing a butterfly, his joy infectious. The future was uncertain, but Claire was ready, untamed, unbroken, and never alone.